G'day geeks, Chris here, and just a quick video because I didn't expect to pick up these awesome figures from Kmart today. So we got an ultimate mashup between two fabulous 1980s properties. We're talking Transformers and Masters of the Universe. They finally meet in action figure form. So I've got both figures from Kmart here in Australia. Very nice surprise, had to make a quick video. Let's go. So yes, I was in Kmart after work today and I saw a couple of these recent Masters of the Universe Transformers figures, which is pretty awesome. So they were first announced at San Diego Comic-Con in July this year, so only a couple of months ago. And then they were up for pre-order at Mattel Creations. And suddenly they're in Kmart here in Australia. What a surprise. It's a very pleasant surprise. So yes, announced in July and available here in Australia in September. So very nice surprise. They're $49 each Australian from Kmart. While I was there, I also had a look at their other figures and also picked up a cool G.I. Joe Hot Wheels Sky Striker, so one of the most famous G.I. Joe figures in die-cast form. So this is from the Hot Wheels Premium Pop Culture line. I've got a few of these now, like Jaws, Back to the Future, etc. So very happy to add a tiny little G.I. Joe vehicle to the collection. In case you're unaware, this isn't the first crossover slash mashup of Masters of the Universe. They've been doing them a fair bit for the last couple of years. So this is a recent figure I picked up. This is a crossover of He-Man and the Ninja Turtles, so two fabulous 80s properties. Well, basically the Ninja Turtles characters travel into Eternia, and they have mini comics that are included with the figures that explain the story a bit more. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then on the right here, we've got the newest one, which is Master of the Universe and Thundercats, and this is basically the traditional Thundercats figures, and you can take off all their Master of the Universe parts and have them as the normal Thundercats figures like they were in the 80s, or dress them up to be a bit more Eternian-like. So yes, He-Man crossed over with the Ninja Turtles and He-Man crossed over with the Thundercats, and yeah, there's a bunch of cool figures, and I'll be reviewing these on the channel. And here we have, obviously, even more 80s properties with He-Man and Transformers. Absolutely wonderful packaging from Mattel. And so here we have the two figures. So these are the only two figures in the first wave of this mashup. So we've got Man-at-Arms, He-Man figure, dressed up as Bumblebee, Transformers. And we've got Skeletor, dressed up as Megatron. So we've got the two evil guys and two good guys. So it's not He-Man figures that can transform, although that would be a good idea, because there was a lot of cool vehicles in the Masters of the Universe line in the 80s, so that may happen down the road. But at the moment, what this approach is classic Masters of the Universe characters with armor that makes them look like Transformers, basically. So they don't transform, but they have accessories that kind of snap on and make them look like Transformers. So the packaging, as always is the case with Mattel, is absolutely wonderful. So we've got the familiar kind of grid of the original Transformers 80s packaging, and then we have the exploding red rock, which the original Masters of the Universe packaging had as well. On the sides we have both characters, so the He-Man versions and the Transformers versions, and then we turn it around and we've got some absolutely gorgeous artwork with Man-at-Arms in the Bumblebee armor, and Skeletor, as I said, with the Megatron armor. And these are multilingual, so you can see a whole bunch of different languages in the corner there, and yes, basically just wordless descriptions of what you can do with the accessories that they come with. So very cool figures, even just in the package, absolutely wonderful. And both the symbols on the front and the wonderful embossed kind of logos of both these wonderful 80s franchises that we both love. Let's get them out of this wonderful packaging and have a closer look. Here is Skeletor dressed up in the Megatron armor. So this was the most popular one on the shelves at Kmart, because there was quite a few more Man-at-Arms Bumblebee figures than there was these ones. So obviously people are not getting both of them like I did. Comes with a little comic, which is awesome, and that kind of just explains the story of what's going on here. But basically it's the Civil War and Cybertron. The little pod escapes with the memories of the Autobots and Decepticons war, crash lands in Eternia. Man-at-Arms finds it and does his tech stuff, and then there's a bit of a fight. and a bit of a tease hopefully of what their next figures will be, which will be He-Man dressed up in Optimus Prime armor, and Scareglow, the glow-in-the-dark skeleton from He-Man and Masters of the Universe line in the 80s, dressed as Starscream. So yeah, He-Man as Optimus and Scareglow as Starscream. Hopefully those couple of figures are on the way next from this fabulous line. But here's the man of the hour. So we've got two classic 80s bad guys with distinctive voices mashing up. So this is in the traditional Motu Origins body. So we've got the familiar, as evidenced by the little sheet that tells you which parts you can pull apart. So you can take his arms off and his waist, remove his head, and you can just do all part swapping and that kind of thing. You can take this belt off if you so desire. But we've got the familiar silver and blue and purple of both of these classic characters, which is great. While I've got his head off, there is a slight articulation to Skeletor's jaw, if the camera will focus. It's not huge, but yes, his mouth does open. The helmet there doesn't come off, and that just pops right back on. And yeah, so this is armor, not transformable armor. It's basically just pieces thrown onto an existing skeletal body. So we've got the traditional articulation with all the waist, the knees move, there's a bit of a swivel on the boots, the wrists, which are also removable, and yes, various articulations. So pretty articulated, which is great to see. And yes, we've got the familiar logos and ticking all the boxes of the design. So you've got these weird shoulder things that just kind of flap up and down, and then you've got a couple of grooves here which fit to his accessories, which we'll look at now. It's not only the outside of the packaging, I should point out, that is awesome, it's also the inside, as we can see the familiar kind of 80s vector graphics from the Transformers intro from the animated series, and also a nice little touch on both inside flaps. They've got a little kind of, remember the red cellophane that you would shine over the kind of decode the various attributes of the Autobots and Decepticons. So we've got that on both flaps of the box, which is pretty cool. So it just shows you their strength and speed or whatever out of 10, which is cool. So yes, Skeletor Megatron comes with a couple of accessories straight out of the box. So we've got Megatron's familiar kind of laser arm cannon, and that's on the familiar goat's head kind of thing from Skeletor's Havoc staff, but obviously a bit more techno oriented. And as shown on the bottom of the box there, this just comes out, this tilts down, so this jaw is not articulated, by the way, and then that can just go in there, and it's a staff, and there's a little handle in there, so that just fits in his hand, which is cool. And they're lovely kind of pliable plastics. That's pretty easy just to well, I'm saying it's easy, now I'm struggling. There we go. So he could just hold that, so it could be a staff. And also you'll notice there's a couple of grooves on the outside of it. Come on, Skeletor, let go. So there's a couple of grooves on this armor as well, and that can just go straight onto the back of his wrist there. So we put the cannon back in the mouth, and then you'll see the little grooves right there, and that just goes on his gauntlet. So he's got all these gauntlets, and that just fits in right there. And then he's got a bit of a hefty cannon, and that's how he's kind of displayed on the cover there. So he's got the gun on his right arm, and then a couple of other accessories he's got. He's got another variation of Skeletor's usual Havoc staff with a goat's head, just fused with a bit of perhaps an energy sword or something of sorts, and it's just got a handle, so we can just hold that thusly, easy enough. But he can also use that little rod to poke it in the back, so there's two spots on his back which he could just store it if you so desire. And the last weapon he has is a bit of a combination of an energon weapon, which Megatron used in a couple of different episodes, I believe, of the original 1980s Transformers cartoon. So again, we've got a weapon that he can hold and use like a bit of a whip. You remember Optimus had a similar kind of axe that would come from his hand. We've got the familiar goat head kind of thing. So it's very pliable plastic, and that can just plug out, and then he can just hold that either way, I guess, in his hand. Again, as evidenced by the back of the box there, that just comes out. You can take his hand and you can just plug that straight in. So it's a nice little mix of kind of He-Man weapons and Transformer weapons, which is pretty cool. So he's got a few different weapons here. Skeletoids. He's got Megatron's armor, so he's got guns and battering rams and things to shoot and things to batter people with, which is pretty cool. But yeah, pretty impressed with this figure. It looks like a bit of an odd mashup, I guess. And these parts aren't removable apart from the belt. But you know, whoever thought that Transformers and He-Man would meet in such spectacular fashion? So I don't know how long this line is going to go and how the fans will respond, but they look pretty awesome, and they're available at Kmart. May seem a bit odd that of the two waves, we've got Skeletor as Megatron and Man-at-Arms as Bumblebee instead of He-Man as Optimus Prime. But I'm sure he's coming, as evidenced by the mini-comic. But it kind of makes sense. Bumblebee and Man-at-Arms, as I said, are both the right-hand man of their respective leaders. Again, we've got the familiar packaging, this time with the red Autobot kind of stuff, with the little grid pattern and a Castle Grayskull and exploding rocks, and a lovely portrait of him on the front of the box, and the familiar stuff on the side. And Mattel just knocking it out of the park, as they always do, with their wonderful packaging artwork and all that kind of stuff. It's absolutely awesome, and obviously the grid kind of pattern continues. And we've got Man-at-Arms dressed in his Bumblebee armor, and also what you can do with him armor-wise. So, you know, what parts are removable and whatnot. And Bumblebee on the side there. So, yes, very cool. I just love seeing the Masters of the Universe and the Transformers logos on one package. Let's open him up. Just like Skeletor, he comes with the same mini-comic. Front and center there, and he also comes with the little flyer that most of the, well, all of the Masters of the Universe Origins figures come with, which detail which parts are removable, so you can do some swapping. Again, just like Skeletor, this is not a transformable figure. It's basically Man-at-Arm wearing Bumblebee inspired armor. So yeah, the helmet's not removable, any of that kind of stuff. But yes, he's got the familiar kind of shin guards and the kind of familiar look that we all know and love from Man-at-Arms. So instead of green and orange, we've got green and yellow. Got the lovely Autobot symbol there. We've got the kind of chest piece that is very Man-at-Arms like from his vintage armor. Got the little horns, which is very Bumblebee like, and that's also very Bumblebee like. We've got the familiar mace, which is Man-at-Arms' traditional weapon, and that's just a bit more techified, I guess. But yes, very cool. We've got a shield again with the Autobot symbol, lovely. We've got a gun which is very similar, very reminiscent of the gun that Bumblebee had in the 80s in his vintage figure. We've got a little visor kind of thing, and finally we've got like a carrying on kind of the Energon weapon kind of energy sword. We've got this lovely little slightly shiny, not really translucent, but yeah, kind of transparent, I guess, kind of translucent but not completely, but a lovely little sword. So a few different weapons. Let's throw them on and see what he looks like all armored up. So yes, he can hold the gun or the sword and the mace in his hands, just normal, not a problem at all. The visor fits on the bottom of his face there, just to give him a more armored up kind of technological kind of look. And the sword is pretty cool because that actually plugs into the bottom of the shield, or you can just hold it by itself with the little handles and stuff on the inside, which is lovely. If you're not sure what goes where, as I said, the back of the box will show you what to do. And also, since we're talking about the back of the box, just like the Skeletor / Megatron figure, it also comes with the familiar tech specs that we are used to seeing from the vintage Transformers figures. So just throwing a few different accessories on him, he does look rather different. I guess it looks more robotic. And as I said, he can hold both of these weapons just in either hand. And I just noticed, not that the back of the packaging tells you this, but it's a pretty nice surprise. You could just plug the sword into the hole on his traditional mace to give him a Darth Maul double-bladed kind of weapon, I guess. Well, not double-bladed, but double points of attack. There's no place on his body to store any of these weapons that he's not using, so there's no holes or anything like the Skeletor figure has. But as I said, a lot of these parts are removable, so you can take some of these weapons off just to give them a more simplified look if you like, and you can also swap them with the Skeletor figure. Just for a bit of comparison, so here we have the masterpiece, I think, Bumblebee. I got this years ago. He's a wonderful figure, very transformable, and I think he came with a little spike in his little armoured kind of suit from the wonderful Transformers, the movie that scarred all of us. And you can see the kind of similarities with the little Autobot symbol on the chest and the kind of horns on the helmet, and the back and the big feet and all that kind of stuff. And here we have the Man-at-Arms from the Ninja Turtles crossover that has been coming out for a couple of years now. So this is basically Man-at-Arms in a bit more ninja kind of samurai inspired armor, and obviously the figure that we're just looking at. So you can kind of see how this figure's a combination of both of these, with the greens and the yellows and the oranges, and kind of taking design cues from both pop culture characters, which is pretty awesome to see. Certainly is the age of the mashups and crossovers. With just in the last couple of years, we've had He-Man and the Masters of the Universe action figures crossed over with Ninja Turtles, first one, and then Thundercats, still ongoing as well, and now Transformers. So yeah, pretty awesome. All these 80s properties colliding in a beautiful mashup is wonderful to see. So these may not be for everybody, but they're kind of Transformers that don't transform, but at least there's mini comics that tell the story. And I'm just in awe of all the stuff that us middle-aged geeks get to enjoy, stuff like this. And it's available on shelves right now at Kmart in Australia, and online from Amazon and Big Bad Toy Store and places like that. Pop Culture also here in Australia, I'm sure. So thank you for watching all the way to the end. Are you going to get these? Are you curious? Is this a great idea? Is this a bad idea? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Goodbye, geeks.